$100 here. We need a little bit more than that. Let's go. Let's go.
You guys are too. Yo!
Yeah, now we're talking. Let's go. Who was here last year for this guy? We had a bunch of people, I think. I would imagine we have some repeat offenders. Very, very, very cool. Jack, honored to be up here with you. Thank you for coming back to Amsterdam to do this with us.
I love Europe. I do. You guys have better food, better culture, nicer people. America's overrated. Yeah. I'm not lying. Better saunas I took this morning. So I'm honored to be here. You guys are too kind to me, man. The kid from the empty closet with the hoodie. You guys are way too nice to me.
Let's
go.
I
appreciate it.
We love it. So let's start from last year. Let's rewind back to last year. Strike, your team, very well known for shipping. What have you shipped from the time you were here last year, doing this with Dylan LeClaire, to this year?
Well, we launched our products in Europe last year, which is a huge milestone for us. I mean, we think Bitcoin is global money, it's better money, and we have a very unique opportunity as a company to serve financial products to hopefully billions of people someday. Europe is included in that, and so we were able to get the necessary licenses to launch our product, which at the time was primarily our brokerage product. So we have no-fee DCA, target orders. I mean, you guys are all familiar with the product, hopefully, at this point. Cheapest way to hopefully buy Bitcoin, free withdrawals to cold storage. And so that's what we did last year, but it was really important that we had a footprint in the region. In many ways, as a company, Strike is like a Bitcoin distribution platform. We have licenses, regulation, technology, all the sorts of tools needed to give Bitcoiners what they want and what they need all over the world. This year, we launched lending. Lending, I've been working on Bitcoin for 13 years, since I was 18 years old. Lending is the most popular product I've ever launched in my career, specifically around Bitcoin utility. I spent a lot of my life trying to get governments and people to adopt the Lightning Network, and not that that didn't work, but lending has been the most successful product we've ever launched in allowing people to better their lives with the Bitcoin they've already acquired. So it doesn't just sit under your mattress. You can actually use it to start a business, put a down payment on a home, finance a medical emergency, put your kids through university. And so we brought that to Europe very recently and the UK. And we're just going to keep going. There's a lot that we're going to ship soon. And, you know, we want to be the financial institution for the Bitcoiner all over the world. And that's the mission. That's the goal.
Appreciate that. When people think of Europe, often sometimes in the Bitcoin community, and I'm saying this maybe as an American, we see sometimes a relatively unfriendly regulatory environment. Sometimes Christine Lagarde comes to mind, not a big Bitcoin fan, right? I'm sure you're seeing different data in terms of uptake in Europe. Are there a lot of Bitcoiners in Europe? Is there, is Bitcoin not really properly represented when it comes to the politicians and the regulatory bodies in Europe? Is there something below the surface that we're not seeing?
Of course. I mean, there's tons of Bitcoiners in Europe. The interesting part about operating Strike is where we see adoption. It makes sense in hindsight, but Bitcoin is a giant wealth transfer. And so therefore, some of the biggest forms of adoption we see is from where the wealth already exists. And so there is not a wealthy person or people that are net producers to society that produce enough value for those around them that they have excess income that they need to save. There's no one I've ever met that needs to save time and energy for their future that is not interested in a better way to do it right now. And so yes, there are plenty of net producers to society in Europe that are rational and principled and moral and ethical. And many of them are our customers. So I don't know, I will say, as much of the US, we don't do things better than you guys as far as cuisine and culture and just like being nice to everyone else. Our regulatory environment is getting a lot more clear, and Europe is not. And so my apologies for how long it has taken us to build some of these products. But one thing that we want to do is do it the right way. A lot of our success has been born on the back of the FTX blow up, the BlockFi blow up, and our customers trust us and trust me to do the right thing. And in part to do that is to make sure that there's regulated compliant services that you guys can rely on and use for the rest of your life. And unfortunately, that comes with licensing and stuff. So it's a grind. I wish Europe had more clear rules. And I mean, we have customers that get debanked for trying to send money to our app still. But with time.
Appreciate that. Something else, we've obviously seen a 180 in terms of the Trump administration versus the Biden administration in the United States. Far more friendly, at very least, to the Bitcoin industry, right? Broader crypto Bitcoin industry. It's made it easier for you to operate in the United States. Do you think that this might be contagious globally? Do you think regulators globally, maybe not even beyond Europe, I know you serve people all over the world, are we moving in just generally a better direction? Is there more education happening with regulators? Is it getting easier for you to get the licenses you need to provide the services that you provide?
I'll give you a split answer. On one side, politicians are politicians, okay? I've been very vocal about this. I'm not left, I'm not right. I'm not red, I'm not blue. I'm not up, I'm not down. All this dumbass shit. I'm orange, I'm a Bitcoiner. I think
You could do that. We could clap for that.
Yeah, I feel very strongly that the best way for all of us, but I'll speak for myself and not for you guys, to affect change that I believe in is through open source software, is through free markets and building a profitable business is the financial expression of making the world a better place, because you are producing more value for the world than you're consuming from the world. And so politicians are politicians no matter how you dress them up, no matter how much makeup, how many fake tans. What we've seen so far, it's been a year since the election. Elon Musk was going to doge my country and treat it like a startup and properly account for it. That didn't work. Everyone was going to pay for all of the mistakes that my country has made in the past via tariffs. China and Russia said absolutely fucking not. That didn't work. And then we were going to basically commingle with the Federal Reserve and manipulate the cost of money in order to debase it and finance our way out of it. And that's been a lot more difficult. And so here we are, exemptions on tariffs, Doge didn't work, and they're printing money to hand out stimulus checks. That, no offense, that sounds a lot like the Biden administration. So, right? I got a laugh out of that guy. It's not that dissimilar unless you sit online all day and you compare what color ties they're wearing. So politicians are politicians. Now, I greatly prefer this administration than the prior one because they're trying, and they're not debanking me, and they're trying to provide a clarity. So that is great, and I'm not talking crap. I'm just being honest. Which I don't think you guys want another politician. You don't want me to be a politician. You don't want me to be another old white guy in a blue suit that's telling you a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm just being honest. Now, on the other side of that is that one of Bitcoin's greatest strengths is that you're better off on its team than standing in its way. That's the design of the threat of the 51% attack. Even if you were to get that much hash power, you're better off just mining a ton of Bitcoin than double spending someone's pizza transaction, right? And it's the same thing with governments. I think Donald Trump is way better off friends with a new wealth class that's a multi-trillion-dollar asset that's competing with gold for potentially the new reserve system and how we all capitalize. He's way better off being our friend than being our enemy. And I think governments are learning that. Institutions are learning that. And that is the beautiful part about Bitcoin. So, anyone needs Bitcoin more than Bitcoin needs them. And it's the moment that you realize that.
Claps are all right. Please feel free. Right.
It's the moment you realize that you become a Bitcoiner. Is that I think as a human, we all naturally want two things. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, and we want to be a part of something that will last longer than we will. The most natural expression of that is family, right? You by having children, you are creating something in your bloodline that will last longer than you will, hopefully. And just the nature of family is it's something bigger than you. There's sacrifice, and you have a partner and you have children. Now, I think Bitcoin is a beautiful way to express that best form of humanity as well. Bitcoin will be around far longer than we will, and it's far bigger than any of us. And it's understanding that level of interconnectivity with the human story that makes us all Bitcoiners. And slowly but surely, people are realizing that. Like, Bitcoin doesn't need Donald Trump. Donald Trump needed Bitcoin to win that election.
Big time.
And Wall Street, Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street. Wall Street is producing the most popular ETF of all time. These banks on Wall Street are having their best years of all time because of Bitcoin. So it's this really gradual process that you're better off on its team and realizing that you are a small part that could benefit from it, and you're not the main character. And that'll take time because these people have really big egos, but we'll get there.
Surely important. Appreciate that, yeah. You make people clap a lot. You're really good with words.
Europe's so nice to me, man. America, they throw tomatoes at me.
Nah, that's not how it works in America either. He's very, very good at this, and it's something that I'm very curious about as someone who works in media. And I asked him beforehand, we were just sitting over there before this, and I said, like, how much time do you put into these keynotes, and you're doing you're creating software that makes Bitcoin easier to use, but you also find it so important to do this messaging, whether it's a keynote, whether it's taking the time to do a fireside or doing your podcast every week. And it isn't just like Jack's musings. It's like, well, here's this article, and this connects to this, and this connects to this. Why so much time? Why is it so important for you in particular to do this sort of messaging?
Well, I mean, education, the difference between the world we live in today and a world I think we all want to see, which is one that adopts Bitcoin and understands it and uses it to its potential, is education. So it is the most simple form of progress we can do, but it's necessary. But I think my particular style is to be very, very authentic. I think we've drifted as society, we've drifted so far away from what's real. We don't use real money anymore. We use printed pieces of paper. In America, we don't eat real food anymore. You look on the back of your groceries, there's 77 ingredients. Metabolic disease is through the roof. Cancer rates have never been higher, and half the country's fat. And, part of what I want to represent is being real. I think the further we get away from...
Claps are good. We allow claps. Please, feel free.
Like, the further we get away from... I think humans are a natural byproduct of Mother Nature. The human story is really like commercializing energy from the sun at the end of the day. And so I think being connected to nature, eating real foods, operating around a moral ground of truth, not lying to yourself, not lying to those around you. And so not only do I try and spend my time educating, because that is the difference between someone whose life savings is evaporating to a point that's making them depressed, suicidal, living a life that they don't enjoy, versus the savings that are appreciating, that's empowering them to have more family, enjoy more housing, invest more in the future that they want to see. The difference between the two is education. Everyone has access to Bitcoin. There's no privileged group that gets access to what we all understand versus other. It's just, can you go out and educate it? And I try and do it in a way that's authentic. And it's not everyone's style. Sometimes people prefer the suits on CNBC, but
you found a nice middle ground between hoodies and suits. I feel like this is
I hope you guys recognize me. I've incorporated like an all black costume into my wardrobe. Shout out to my chief of staff. I didn't pick this out, but I've heard good things. I heard it looks better than some of my hoodies. Nonetheless, that's part of the brand with Strike. What we're bringing to Wall Street with 21 is authentic, truth, Bitcoin, real. I think we've been starved of real.
Yeah, appreciate that. Claps are good. Like I said, go for it. Don't hesitate. Don't hold back. I think we all believe we're on an arc to hyper-Bitcoinization. So I'm kind of curious as to what you think hyper-Bitcoinization looks like, and then what are sort of the major hurdles? Like, we could talk a little bit about maybe human psychology. Do people not understand this well enough? Is it a regulatory thing? What was that? I couldn't hear it, but anyway, we'll keep going. Yeah, if someone can relay the message, I will. Please feel free to send it along. But anyway, what does this arc look like? What does hyper-Bitcoinization look like in your mind, and how do we get there?
To me, Bitcoin is money, which sounds like, oh no, duh, but all these other cryptos aren't money. Money is the market good that you acquire to save and later exchange for the things that you need. These boots are not money. I acquired them to consume them, to put them on my foot. I didn't acquire them to save and later get groceries, okay? So it's a very simple concept. We all get up, we work, we provide value for those around us, hopefully, and in exchange for that, we need a market good to represent our time and energy, human effort, because I can't go to the grocery store and say, hey, I just chatted with Frank, I'll take 2 steaks. They're going to be like, I don't give a fuck about your conversation with Frank. And so we have this thing called money, and Bitcoin is trying to solve that problem, right? It's trying to be the thing that you can exchange your human effort for, the value you create for others, and save. And then when the time is right, whether you need food, you need housing, you need family, you can exchange for the things that you do want to consume. Now, us humans, we own about $900 trillion worth of stuff, a little more at this point. And that's a combination of fiat currencies, debt, sovereign debt, like nation state debt, also real estate, also equities, so stocks in a company, also precious metals. So it's all the things we own, art, whatever. Half of it we've monetized. So about half the world's wealth, half the 900 trillion, 400 to 500 trillion, we've monetized the real estate. Half the world's real estate, people, the owners of the real estate aren't sleeping in it. They aren't eating dinner with their families in it. You can't own 10 houses and sleep in all of them. Half the real estate in the world they've used as a savings account. Half the equities, half of the stuff, half the art. No one's buying a $10 million painting to put on their wall so their kid can throw spaghetti at it. The $10 million painting is sitting in a vault. They're not consuming the art. They don't wake up and have a coffee and look at the art. It's a savings, right? So to me, Bitcoin is solving a $400 to $500 trillion problem where the things around us we need to consume. You should only have the houses that you actually use. You should only have the art that's actually on your wall. Don't deprive the world of beautiful art in a fucking vault. And so hyper-Bitcoinization to me is the world continually adopting it as money, which so far we're 2 trillion of the 400. And that's in purchasing power terms, right? Like obviously these numbers inflate as currencies inflate. So that is what I view. I think we are well on our way. Sometimes people say, what's taking Bitcoin so long? It's like, well, it's been 15 years roundabout, and we've made incredible progress. So to me, that's what it is. That's why it's starkly different than other cryptos. Ethereum's not money. Solana's not money. These are technologies that do, backflips on the blockchain or whatever. But the important part is they're not competing for that 400 trillion. So that's what it looks like to me. And seeing Wall Street and nation states and corporations and individuals continue to use it as money.
Appreciate you talking about Bitcoin as money. It often gets talked about as an asset, something we can use. We're seeing the rise of Bitcoin treasury companies. And I think personally all this stuff is fine. It's great. And you yourself, you're involved with 21, right? So you on some level see it as an asset as well. I think it's both, right? It is both. But I think also there seems to have been some pressure applied, I don't know, there is sometimes some pressure applied to some people to kind of like, well, don't talk about it as money, right? Because that would mean it's maybe a competitor to the dollar or something like that. And not a lot of people necessarily like that. So I'm curious about that. Why do you remain so adamant about kind of making sure that Bitcoin fulfills its ultimate purpose as money?
Well, because people have convoluted the concept of money to benefit them. It's like, oh, no, Bitcoin's not money. You're talking about an asset. The dollar's money. No, how about fuck you? First of all, don't tell me what to think or how to say what I want to say. Money is what I want to save, then I later exchange for the things I want in my life. Now, if I walk into the pizza parlor and they say, well, we technically only accept dollars at that moment, then I just convert my Bitcoin to dollars and I hand to get the pizza. But what I used as money was Bitcoin because I exchanged the work I'm doing for those around me for Bitcoin and then later exchange it for the things I want. So this convoluted concept that there's like all these different forms of like, fuck you. I just don't buy it. And sorry, like, because it really does bother me of like, there are powerful people in this industry that you guys all probably follow online and I'm not saying they're bad people, but they've tapped me on the shoulder and say, hey, don't say that on CNBC, or I don't like the way you talk about the dollar. Sorry, good thing I'm me and you're you, and you say whatever you want. And then in regards to the Treasury.
That's right, yeah, it's important. And that's this particular, so can I add a little context there if you don't mind? This particular port is really important. For the last, I've been the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine. There are certain pressures that get put on people when they're in certain roles. So for the sake, Joe, I think it really deserves a round of applause you just gave him, because that tap on the shoulder does happen to people, and they get told to think about things a certain way and message a certain way, and his messaging has remained consistent throughout, and this is really important. It's why you're up here, because I think what you do with that messaging is you speak to the hearts of everybody in this room who's taken the time, who's used their money to come here, spend time at a Bitcoin conference, to be around other like-minded people who see Bitcoin as money. So I think this point is really, really important. The amount of pressure, it really can't be underestimated by people who might not be in these environments. But I'm curious, is it just your sense of integrity? It has to be hard at points. I have to imagine there are points where the pressure kind of feels like so much like, maybe it would be easier to just toe this line that people want me to toe.
Again, it's like I just am very passionate and feel very strongly about being real. Like, as a human being, I was born to love others, to contribute to something bigger than myself. Like, this is bigger than me. And it's bigger than anyone else's self-interest as well. And so, I don't think any of us were born inherently bad or wrong. So why I wouldn't want to stand for the truth and be honest. So, what's my preference? To be honest, stand for what I believe in. And by the way, not in an arrogant fashion. I'll be the first to raise my hand, which I've done throughout my career all the time, when I'm wrong. I've said, I got to squeeze this in here just for this. My team's going to kill me. But I've said, hey, it seems like Jamie Dimon banked Jeffrey Epstein.
Big words, big words.
No, listen, I've said that pretty publicly because it seems like it's true, and JP Morgan threw me out of the bank, hilariously. And if he ever called me up and said, listen, man, you can't say stuff like that because here's the evidence that I didn't, he's never done that. He's never once provided. So I'm happy to raise my hand, the point is, and say, I was wrong, the dollar's money, Bitcoin's an asset. But it's not for those reasons that people tap me on the shoulder. They tap me on the shoulder like, well, you're saying things that, would make other people upset. If the truth makes you upset, that says a lot about you, not me.
Appreciate that. We're getting close to wrapping up, but something that came to mind, it was a question that was kind of repeating itself in my mind as you were responding to that last question. Does Bitcoin, in a way, make us inherently better, right? Does basically saving our money, not having to be on a treadmill all the time, and have that sort of desperation, that adrenaline in our body that's constantly keeping us on this treadmill that never ends because of fiat debasement, does it inherently make us better, or do we have work to do as Bitcoiners to be purveyors of this technology, or people who represent this technology, we're proud to use it, we want to sort of see it proliferate? Do we have work to do, or maybe a mix of both? What do you think?
There's probably truth to both. It absolutely makes us better people. Again, I think money in its most pure form is just our effort, our labor, our time, our energy, abstracted into a market good that we can freely trade. And so I've considered things like government debt and the ability for governments to print currency to be the closest thing that we've ever seen to time travel and abuse on a population. Being able to borrow money is literally pulling time and energy from the future and pulling it forward to expend it today. So the United States being in $38 trillion of debt, they've already expended $38 trillion worth of human effort from my kids when I become a father, from their kids. That is as close to time travel as possible. They've traveled into the future and expended time, energy, and effort that we haven't even had an ability to experience. And then on top of that, they are debasing our time and energy. So if money is your time and energy in an abstracted form, and they're able to debase it and devalue it, by proxy, they're devaluing you.
It's really important to note. Yep, please.
And so, I will just say, it's one of the more abusive things government has ever done to the population is have a vector to debase humans. Because again, it's like, well, it's debasing the currency, but they are like, your money is a reflection of the things you've done for those around you. It's supposed to represent the value you get up and create every day. And so by proxy, you are destroying, you're increasing the time and energy required to live a sustainable life.
Just to get by, right?
Yes. So now instead of humans getting married at 20, owning a house at 25, having kids and creating businesses, the average age people get married is in their 30s. The average age they own a home is in their 50s. You're increasing the time and energy required to be productive and be the best form of ourselves. It's bullshit. And so inability to say, listen, there's a $38 trillion hole, and there's right now a fight of who's going to realize that loss. Is it going to be Russia, China, the US, the American taxpayer, the banking system? What Bitcoin allows us to do is say, I don't know the answer to that. You guys will probably point guns at each other to figure that out. It's not going to be me, because I'm going to take my time and energy and I'm protect it with math very peacefully. And so it absolutely, I think Bitcoiners have more family, lower time preference, and they're able to do things like start business. Like Bitcoin enabled me to start 2 companies that, I hope and work hard to, have a positive influence on the world. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without Bitcoin.
I think we're going to leave it there. I have one last request. The applause is not enough. I need you to stand up and give this man a round of applause. So please join me. Jack, thank you. We appreciate what you've done, brother.
Thank you so much, man. That was so much fun. Thank you, guys.